And this is a nice tight episode. So that's going to help you get to sleep. And that sound means it's the start of another Missal for the masses. This is the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod, and I am your host, Gary.
And I'm Casey.
And this is the podcast that's centered around the vehicles, playsets, trailers, and comic books of G.I. Joe, a real American hero. And we also talk about other military and adventure toy lines. And Casey, it's been a week, so how have you been? What's going on in your life of collecting?
Pretty good. Got a new setup. People can't see it right now, but they will when we start going live. That was my Christmas, except for got some toys from you. Really appreciate it. My very first Hiss 2.
There's a reason why you got one.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Got a new Skeletron shirt and my Jungle Trooper. Other than that, it's been
jealous of the Jungle Trooper.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I haven't opened them yet, and I love the Bob Reekin figure that came with the Robo Skull. That is so cool.
It's well, that's I mean, Skeletron really did not have to do that, and then on top of it, they did an amazing job doing it.
Oh yeah. Every time I look at it, I just picture the conversations that I had with Bob at Joe Fest. And it was awesome. Those were great times.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in my week, the biggest thing is After Action Report, Volume 3 and Command Files found their way into the mail, into my front door. And I opened them up. Haven't really delved too much in Command Files, but I just started reading into the articles of Volume 3, and there is definitely some insightful stuff in there. Josh Egbean, Roger Taft did an amazing job. I'm still kind of miffed they didn't put Sierra Muerte into it, but I'm a fan of Sierra Muerte. Wasn't such a big fan of G.I. Joe and the Transformers, but no, it's definitely good. There's definitely some excellent interviews with the staff of IDW and another interview of Larry Hama. So it's everything you want. It fills in a lot of gaps, and ends a lot of speculation.
Yeah, they do fantastic work. We had them on our show a few months back for their last Kickstarter, and they're just good guys who do fantastic work.
Yeah.
It seems like they're always busy. They're always, they've got plans on plans, and, they got the next 3-4 books planned out.
Yeah. Josh Egbean's planning out movie premieres to get the Skybound exclusive from that one showing. Yeah, you got to make time for those things too, Casey.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, yeah, and it's research, for the next volume of After Action Report. Yeah, sure. They definitely are good guys, and so really not too much. And like we were talking before the recording, I did dig out some more Joe toys. I found my Rages. I put them out onto my my shelves of completed vehicles, and discovered an extra 4 mines that may belong to a Rage in South Africa. Nice. So yeah, if somebody in South Africa is missing 4 Rage mines, please reach out to chaplainjoepod@gmail.com with a forwarding address, and I'll get those to you. And and then I spent some time cleaning and repairing a Razorback, only to discover so I'm not going to be reviewing it anytime soon because I'm missing 2 missiles. Not that really harms the review. And Wild Boar is missing his helmet, And so that's, stupid little stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anything to not work on my whale, to not clean my MCC, or doing all those other things. I said, yeah, I'm going to do this in 2025. Kick the can down the road. And I discovered that I can't find my forward observer. There was a YT on X, formerly Twitter. He was posting. He bought from Hakes Auctions. He bought a pre-production forward observer, prototype from Hasbro. And I was like, "Ooh, this is really like, ooh, let me look for mine." And
Can't
turned
find
up
it.
empty. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know where it is. So, and Casey's dog reminding everybody.
She wants her treat.
She's like, move on with it. I want to talk about G.I. Joe 312.
She probably would. She's a good girl.
She's a good girl. She appreciates a quality comic book.
Yep. I am loving the Larry Hama stuff. I'm just saying. Just get that out there.
All right, so bury the lead, yeah? No?
Yeah.
So, Casey, would you like to start off with the cover description?
Yeah, I mean, the cover's pretty cool. Jinx and Scarlet are just demolishing some rando, different kind of mutated vipers. The looks like a frag viper's head. It just got chopped off. I love the green blood.
Absolutely, yeah.
Looks. Oh, what are those ninjas? The purple ninjas. What were
Night
their names?
Creeper.
Night Creepers. It looks like there's a Night Creeper there.
Yep.
I just keep thinking of Book of Boba Fett when I see those because those assassins look just like them.
No, what you're supposed to do is think of the Night Creepers when you watch the Book of Boba Fett, not the other way around.
I enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay, but I still think G.I. Joe 312 is better than the Book of Boba Fett.
312 is really good. I've enjoyed the storyline so much more than I thought I was going to when they set off the mutant bomb. I was like, but I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it definitely was very Hama-tropey. Like, we're going to set up this big thing that's going to be really weird. And, when I talked with, Jason and Greg and Steven and, Paul and Joel and everybody else when we were talking comics, there was always trepidation when it came to this big thing. Like, can Mr. Hama pull this off? This is kind of a weird thing, and it's going to go one of two ways. He's either going to knock it out of the park, or it's going to be like, a base hit. It's going to go one way or the other. And because he unfortunately in the middle there was all those setup issues.
Mm-hmm.
But once we got through that, and like I've said, like I've conjectured earlier, is like he's in a flow now. And let's not disrupt this flow because this book is hitting. The pacing is definitely modern. It's not, prime G.I. Joe of like dense read 12 through 19, and and it's very modern take, but it's really taking a ridiculous concept. 311 we both really enjoyed, which is the reason why we're talking about 312 so quickly. And the Energon universe is still waiting for me to, reread and come up with.
I'll have to reread those too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We definitely have to. It's been months. But anyway, back to 312. This is a good ride. It's still flowing, and we'll talk about the interior of 312 because we got to say that Andy Kubert did do the cover, and it was inked by Tamara Bonvillain. So I hope I pronounced that.
Sounds like Bond villain.
Bond. Casey bringing us to other podcasts all night long, folks. Yeah, so it's solid. It's definitely solid. And when you turn the cover and you open up to the inside, you get a nice naked shot with no trade dress of the full image. The other thing before we get in, I want to mention is the opening and closings of each issue. I like how they're distinguishing those pages with, the 5 stars on the top and the bottom and the red, white, and blue stripes on the opening page. And at the end, they have the G.I. Joe 3 stripes with the star at the end on the back page.
Yeah.
Really solid way of distinguishing each issue, which is also going to help if somebody buys the trade paperback, which
I did. I bought the first trade paperback, and because I don't know, G.I. Joe, I always end up buying the trade paperbacks because I want to keep my floppies in good condition. And I do that with G.I. Joe, and I do it with Valiant comics because those are my 2 favorites. And I loved how, because the story does flow, and sometimes the only way you can tell you're going to the next comic is because of the stars. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I got this one read now, and I'm working on the next one. And I don't know, I like it. I think it's a nice touch.
Yeah. So the credits for this issue is going to be writer, of course, Larry Hama, artist Chris Mooneyham, the colorist Francesco Segala, the flatter Sabrina Del Grasso, letterer Pat Brosseau, and editor is Alex Antone. Production design Jillian Crabb, and creative consultant Diana Davis. So to summarize 312 and what's going on, it is Destro's story in this invasion of Springfield. It's Destro facing off against Serpentor, and you got fisticuffs. Serpentor-Kahn.
Yep.
You get a good bout of fisticuffs with good banter, and Destro reminding the reader that Serpentor-Kahn is the past and Destro is the future. And Hama's banter between these two guys is absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Insults back and forth, and then the apparent explosion, reducing to atoms, on fire, beautiful splash page of Serpentor-Kahn's apparent death. More on that later from me. And then moving on to the final defeat of his forces at the hospital by the lack of a better term, the Ninja Force crew and the Dreadnoks. Destro shows up at the very end of that. He gets the Baroness out of there, and then he confronts the CG in Cobra Commander's armor, and then finally basically says, it's my time to go against Cobra Commander. None of you Dreadnoks, none of you Ninja Force Joes are needed. It's going to be me versus him, and that's where it ends. It's simple. But each scene is just laid out well, and like I said, the dialogue, the dialogue in this book is. I'm going to lead off. Hama wrote this book. The dialogue's off the charts.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just gave a excellent description of his comic. The fight between Destro and Serpentor-Kahn was awesome. Just the whole Destro has always been one of my favorites, and this just elevated him even more because he's bringing out all the stops.
When I was reading it, I was wondering if Destro was going to use his go-go gadget arms, but I'm glad that that has been dropped from canon,
Yeah.
it looks like, much like the Transformers thing. Mr. Hama, thank you very much for your consistent retconning of continuity. But I also got to say, Mooneyham's art in this, the way he built each page, the way each page flows, his layouts, worked really well. It almost looks like him and Hama are working together,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes Hama will sketch the cover, many times he sketches the cover. And then sometimes he also sketches layouts for the artist to also, uh, you know, draw inspiration from. And it looks like, these two, Hama and Mooneyham, they're working very well in concert.
Oh, yeah, definitely same page for sure. I know I've said this before, but there's no wasted panels. I mean, your eyes just go the way they're supposed to. And one of my favorite panels is the one where Serpentor-Kahn throws Destro a long ways, and there's a burning his tank on its side. Just, it looks amazing.
Yeah, and you see the body coming out of the turret,
Yeah,
and it's the
cracked windshield.
yeah, exactly. And that whole page is like, and you look at the very top, it begins with a simple background of just
Mm-hmm.
the look,
Action
Serpentor-Kahn
lines. Yeah,
is kicking Destro, and the action lines draw your eye to the fact that, you even have that like impact star,
yep.
drawing your eye to the fact that, Serpentor-Kahn is a real threat to Destro. But to go to the another page where 2 pages later, you get this extreme close up of Destro's face with the red laser stuff coming off the eye or the helmet, his beryllium steel mask. And there's just so much mood and drama in that panel bef- before you go to the next one, which is his gunship looming overhead.
Mm-hmm. And what seems to be the end of Serpentor-Kahn, allegedly.
Allegedly. And I wanted to come back to this because it ain't over until a meta viper declares him dead, or or it's okay, Serpentor-Kahn has gone into a coma.
Right.
But it is confirmed as good news by Televiper to Cobra Commander that Serpentor-Kahn was obliterated by a laser-guided missile designated by Destro.
Yeah.
But we all know Vipers, and we all know they can get it wrong, especially if they're looking at it from a computer screen.
Right.
Because that's been proven many times before, even in the Skybound run, like when the blue cyborgs invaded Snake Eyes' cabin.
Oh yeah. So the page after Serpentor-Kahn blows up, it's wrecked out. It looks like, is that a Hiss 2 or a regular Hiss in the front? And I see a Stinger. I want to say Hiss 2 just because the gun turret's red. I think the city looks so good in the background.
It's the main shopping district of Springfield.
Yeah. And I love how he throws in all different kinds of Vipers in his, so it's not just one kind. But they're in for a rude
Rude awakening.
from
And,
the ninjas and dreadnoughts.
and then, yeah, building off of this page, you see the, I would call Serpentor-Kahn's chief general, the
Mm-hmm.
Frag Viper. And there, in that middle panel, you kind of get a good view of the mutated Frag Viper, holding the big gun. And the big gun reminds me of that 1990s Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and in G.I. Joe, Andrew Wildman, who I adore. But then you get a couple pages later where the Frag Viper has stayed away from the action, and he's holding up, the highlight basket that's on his hand, and even that's mutated into these two giant claws.
Yep.
I love the reimagining of the Frag Viper in this book. If they made this Frag Viper as a
Yeah.
classified figure, I would
I'd buy.
buy the classified figure.
Yeah, for sure.
Forget doing retro. Don't do a retro Frag Viper. Make this Frag Viper.
How about the 2 pages of just violence before that, though?
The Dreadnought.
We got Dawn cutting off tops of their heads, Scarlet's and Jinx splitting them in half, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow just tearing them up, and the Dreadnoks with Road Pig knocking one of his heads off.
This goes back to like earlier points. Dawn cutting off the tops of the Viper's heads reminds me of some layouts Larry Hama did for Netho Diaz about 60 issues earlier with sword play for Dawn against her foes. And then on this other page, the Dreadnoks, I love how each Dreadnok is using their specialty
Yes.
against the mutated zombie Vipers. But they reimagined the Jaws of Life by Ripper as he's grabbing the mutant. So he's not using essentially the AK with the Bowie knife, oh my God. What do you call the blade underneath it? Bayonet.
Yeah. It's like a hook bayonet, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, but the other thing, and this reminded me as on my reread this evening, was Road Pig is kind of turned into Smart Hulk.
Yeah, turning into Donald again.
But they've kind of blended it. So before, early on, he was kind of a split personality, issue 90, 91 of
Right.
Marvel. You had Donald, then you had Road Pig. But now he's just violent with an intelligent, and he's not Australian. He's, Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
Road Pig.
I just love that where he just takes the head right off of him. Wow.
Yeah, that it is. That is a good thing. And then you get to the final end with Destro facing off to get into, where Cobra Commander is. And the way he easily dispatches the CG, which is something I can actually say is one of my nitpicks of this book. Because how did the CG was very tactfully minded in the preceding issues. For Destro to be like, yeah, I'll disarm myself. And he launches all his wrist rockets up into the air and just completely blows him out. Like, this guy was so competent up until this point? How did he not see that coming?
I thought it was a nice touch.
No, I'm not saying it's not a nice touch. It's just, it's like the only time in the book where I can say the circumstances were made to fit the plot rather than the character. You got your despoiler. Your despoiler showed up in that sequence as well. And I guess the only other nitpick I'm going to say is, the original Destro only has wrist rockets on his right, and Mooneyham shows him launching all 4 two off of each wrist.
He's upgraded.
It's Destro. Like I said, you got to pick some nits when you're being critical of a book.
I loved it. It's fantastic.
I think this is the 4th time you've said you've loved it.
I don't know if it's just because I'm not enjoying the others right now, but I'm hopeful. Like, I was so excited when this one came out. My comic book store is two times away. I went right up there and got it because I want to read it.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't we go into rating this book? 5 Out of 5, you can use your quarter scales. Where are you at in this book?
Can I go 4.9? I know it's not a quarter, so I
Four
guess 4.7,
nine.
4.9. I think it's dang near perfect, honestly.
Dang near perfect.
Dang near perfect. Because from the first words to the last words, I was just engaged the whole time. There was no boring parts. Even the conversations weren't boring. It was a great book.
I got to ask, what's keeping this from being perfect? I'm curious.
I don't know. I mean, it's just right there. I'm afraid if I say a 5, then the next one won't be as good, or I don't know.
Well, okay. Casey, you've read a lot of comic books.
I've read a lot.
You've read a lot of G.I. Joe comic books. Can
I've
you
read a lot.
name a 5-star G.I. Joe comic off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I would say no, because I don't know the numbers.
Okay. Well, I can tell you 3 books off the top of my head from the Marvel run. 1, 21, 155. Those are my 3 top 5 number 5 stars.
I know 21's iconic, but I mean, there wasn't a whole lot right into that. So, uh, forget the name of the number of the comic, but I would say the one I would consider on a 5 star would be, I want to say it's like 28 because it's got Airborne in it, Spirit, Destro.
So if Airborne was in this book, would this push the 4.9 up to a 5?
It would, yeah, because
Okay.
Airborne is a big sell for me. But I'm trying. It's the issue where Snake Eyes is in his cabin on the ground and Destro's at the door. That
Yep.
is one of my
Yeah,
all-time favorites.
you're in the ballpark. I couldn't tell you the exact number either.
I have it graded somewhere. I got it at Joe Fest like 4 years ago.
Well, I guess it's my turn to rate this book. I had a lot of fun reading this. Like I said, there's some things to nitpick, but to me, like you, it's darn near perfect. And I am at a solid 4.75
Yeah,
out of 5. It's, there's really, I have to find things to be critical of, but really
yeah,
it really doesn't stop my enjoyment of this book. This is, this is the 3rd part. We have a 4th part coming, issue 313. It's going to be Destro versus Cobra Commander, and Snake Eyes is going to provide color commentary. Uh, some people still can't get used to Snake Eyes speaking.
it's. I struggle with it, but I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just going to take some getting used to. And I just remembered another no, a 5 star GI Joe comic, number 50, Attack on Springfield. Love that one. Yep.
And the second appearance of Serpentor,
Yes.
not
Yep.
Serpentor-Kahn.
It was fantastic from first page to last page.
And Airborne was in it.
Not a lot.
Well, there's a lot of G.I. Joe characters in issue 50. Every Joe showed up. So every Joe has to get a little bit of screen
Yeah.
time.
I guess I really like their special attack force with Scarlet and Snake Eyes and Wakando and Spirit. They were doing all the dirty work. Beachhead.
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
escaping in the trash truck.
Yep.
Yeah, love that.
Like you, I think A Real American Hero for this month again was my favorite read.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against for me. I don't want to say anything disparaging about the Energon universe because
I'm
you
not
know
giving up on
no, I'm not giving it up in either. But part of the pull of A Real American Hero for me as a 40 something adult, and Casey might still be a 40
it.
something adult,
Nope. I'm early 50s.
early 50s. But this is still, entwined with, like I said, this is, and I think critically, this is a quality book. but there's also that nostalgic pull. And when you get my nostalgia with quality, it is, it's just like eating a good hamburger. It's just like, give it to me, a good steak. And the Energon universe is just, well, it's that new restaurant down the street. Yeah. It's that Asian fusion place that you're trying the menu and you're still like, ooh, this is tasty. Maybe I won't order this next time.
But you're going to get your good dishes like Cobra Commander to Destro.
Yeah.
You're going to get some okay ones like Scarlet. And ones that maybe I'm going to learn to like the ongoing Jaja. I don't hate it. I'm just not into it yet.
Yeah, it started off on and they've just introduced a new character and they haven't really explored that. So it's definitely different than the 1980s when it was pushing toys.
Right.
The Energon universe is introducing characters that do not have toys. So we haven't been introduced to any story around the character. Chameleon, in Destro, she's not a well-known character. She was explored a little bit in IDW, in the IDW Cobra series, but not to a huge extent where Joe Q Public is going to be like, oh, Chameleon. Ooh, she's interesting and mysterious and sexy and this, that, and the other thing. It's just, here's Chameleon and she's blonde. And to be fair, I need to basically reread all of that backstory because we kind of have to eventually get our rears in gear to catch up on that, which is probably going to take us into March. To be fair to you, Casey, and to you, the listener, it's been kicked down. The can got kicked down the road again because, Casey and I were kind of biting at the bit to like kind of talk about this book. And I'm kind of biting at the bit to listen to other podcasts about this book. Because if they come in my feed and they're talking about something that I want to talk about, I don't listen to it until after I've talked to you, Casey.
Yeah. Same. I don't want anything to. I want my opinion to come out. I respect other people, so I might be like, oh, yeah, Steve didn't like this, so I probably shouldn't like this. But I want my opinion, then I'll go back and I'll listen to theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that puts the final thing to say, I guess, about this book. So that concludes Missal number 86 of the Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod. Thank you for listening. For more Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod, you can find us on social media at Chaplain Joe Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And you could also email chaplainjoepod@gmail.com. And while you're listening or watching on the YouTube stream, because it kind of is a watch and a listen, subscribe, do that thing. It really helps grow and improve the podcast. Leave a comment, on Spotify, our host, or, on YouTube. I read them all. It really helps. The last one, the big one was Skeletron listened to our top 2024 figures. And this is an audio episode, so you guys can't see that Casey is once again wearing that stylish Skeletron hat with that stylish Red Shadows t-shirt he bought from Skeletron. So, and I'm going to have to, kick him another $27 for a, Wolf Trooper from Jungle Wolf Trooper. So yeah, thanks for everybody that's listening and discovering. Really, it means the world. And eventually probably should start putting together a feedback section again, because now we're getting more feedback. It's awesome. And Casey, you've got your own show, Podcast from the Pit. So why don't you tell the listeners where they can find you?
You can find us on YouTube, Podcast from the Pit. We are, if you give us a chance, watch us, maybe like and subscribe. We're making a push to 250 subs. We're just a small, fun show, mostly GI Joe. Might bring some Delta 17 in there, or like today, I think we talked a little Doctor Who. So we got a lot of interest, but it's mostly a GI Joe show. You can find us on Facebook, where we have a very active Facebook group. Uh, we're on X, and our email is podcastfromthepit@gmail.com.
The Chaps and Sisters Motor Pod is this strange, but not as strange, nerdy little brother of the pint, a pop culture podcast. And I'm not saying that because of a laser targeting system pointed directly at my chest. And with all of that out of the way, one final missile for the masses: be decent to each other.
Everybody, take care.